Wendy is a well-known, dumb beauty. She accidentally leaked the corporate bidding documents, causing the company to be on the verge of bankruptcy. I made great efforts to turn the tide, socializing day and night and attracting investments. But Wendy deliberately revealed the reserve price to our competitors, which led to bankruptcy. In a fit of rage, I called the police. However, my brother smashed my mobile phone and locked me in the room without water or food. Wendy just wanted to buy a new bag and sold your bidding documents to the rival. How could you send her to prison? You've just lost a company. Why do you have to ruin Wendy's reputation? In the end, Wendy deliberately set fire to the room and locked me inside, burning me alive. She sold my company with the help of my brother and embezzled my property. Finally, she stepped on my bones and became a new rising beautiful entrepreneur in the industry. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day when I gave the corporate bidding documents to Wendy. One President Ryan. I'm here to get the bidding documents. Wendy walked into my office and smiled as she stretched out her hand to me. Wendy? Bidding documents? I'm reborn. On this day in my previous life, Wendy also came to me for the bidding documents, and I gave them to her. She was a senior this year, and was introduced by my brother to intern here. Although she was usually a bit stupid and had the title of Dumb Beauty, I thought that it couldn't go wrong just to let her deliver the bidding documents. But it did go wrong. She sent the bidding documents to the wrong person, to my rival. For my brother's sake, I gave her another chance. But she actually revealed my bidding reserve price as well. Thus, my company went bankrupt. In order not to let me take revenge on Wendy, my brother locked me in the room, cut off water and food, and was going to starve me to death. Wendy thought I was dying too slowly, so she directly set fire to me and burned me to death. After my death, she sold my company, stepped on my bones, and with the help of my brother, became a new rising beautiful entrepreneur. And I died with everlasting regret, recalling all the things in my previous life. Overwhelming hatred made me tremble violently all over. Wendy took a sharp breath, looking fragile, and said softly, President Ryan, are you all right? I took a deep breath, forcibly suppressing the hatred in my heart, and forced a smile. I'm fine. Wait a while for the bidding documents. You go out first, and I'll call you when it's done. Wendy nodded and went out. I quickly made a fake bidding document, then called Wendy in and handed it to her. Go ahead. Go and send it to the wrong person. There are not only false bidding documents, but also a false reserve price waiting for you. This time, it's my turn to play you to death. 2 in the following days. My behavior was no different from usual. Wendy was still my capable assistant. Every morning when I came to the company, she was already sitting at her desk. When she saw me, she still smiled and greeted me. But she just didn't stand up. My secretary Vivian had reminded her many times. Each time she always said nonchalantly, I'm different from you. You're just a secretary. Of course, you should be respectful when seeing the president. I'm not. Previously, Vivian had also mentioned this matter to me. At that time, I said, maybe the post-2000s are more individualistic these days. It doesn't matter, as long as she can do her job well. As it turned out, not only could she not do her job well, but she was also malicious-minded. Vivian really couldn't stand it any longer. In front of me, she reminded Wendy, you should stand up when greeting the president. Wendy pouted and complained in a low voice. Brother Sean just asked me to intern here, not to be a servant. Why should I stand up? I smiled and patted her on the shoulder. All right. You don't need to stand up. Indeed. As you said, you're just an intern. Glancing at the bag behind her, I went over and picked it up. This bag is very beautiful. How much did it cost? A hint of panic flashed in Wendy's eyes. Guilty as if she were a thief, she took the bag back and put it away. Not much. It's very beautiful and suits you very well. After I said this with a smile, I went to Vivian. Let me have another look at the bidding price. Vivian paused for a moment. Obviously, she didn't understand why I suddenly wanted to see the bidding price. But after all, she was my confidant. Even though she was puzzled, she didn't ask, but found the folder. I opened it and took a look, sighed, and then put the folder back. Another 100 million. What a headache. Vivian's eyes flickered, and then she cooperated and said, President, so much money flows in and out of your hands every day. What is this 100 million? But I still feel sorry for it. Wendy came over. When this project is won, we will surely earn more. What are you sorry for? That's true. I nodded and walked into the office. After a while, Vivian took the opportunity to come in and bring me coffee and lock the door before asking me what had happened just now. She had actually guessed that I deliberately said those words in front of Wendy. President, are you suspecting that Wendy? She didn't finish the rest of the sentence. Keep an eye on her these days. It will be all right when the bidding is over, I said. After thinking for a while, Vivian nodded knowingly. President, don't worry. And next day at work, Wendy changed her bag again. Although they were all basic models, the price was definitely not low for a newly interned college student. She got money again. You've changed to a new bag again. It's very beautiful. You have good taste, I praised. Wendy narrowed her eyes with a smile. Thank you, President Ryan. Vivian frowned and reminded. Call her President Ryan. Wendy pursed her lips again and said, You don't understand my relationship with Sister Ryan. Besides, I was introduced here by Brother Sean. She giggled, her voice sweet and coquettish. Right. Sister Ryan. I nodded with a smile and entered the office. Vivian came in and asked me who I was taking with me to tomorrow's bidding meeting. Naturally, I would take some project members. And also, you. Plus the one outside. Although Vivian knew that I had my own plan, she was still worried. Aren't you afraid that she'll mess things up if you take her? I don't trust her at all. Let her have a sense of participation throughout the whole process. My eyes fell on the computer screen. Maybe there will be a good show to watch. 3 After the bidding meeting ended, I had just walked to the door with my people when Albert's voice suddenly came from behind. He was the president of my rival company. In my previous life, Wendy had sent my bid document to him. President Ryan. Wait a moment. I stopped, turned around, and greeted him with a smile. President Albert. We walked out together. Albert lowered his head and said in my ear, To be honest, only you and I have the strength to win this project. But President Ryan, I'm determined to get this project. I think it's better for President Ryan to withdraw, so as not to make it too ugly. I stopped and turned my head to look at him. President Albert, isn't it a bit too late for you to say this? The results are about to come out soon. Albert looked very pleased and laughed out loud. I'm just kindly giving President Ryan some advice. If you lose, President Ryan can say so, and it won't be too embarrassing. I smiled slightly. President Albert is still so confident. Albert stood up straight. Of course. As long as it's something I want, I will definitely get it. Suddenly, Wendy ran in front of me and confronted Albert, angrily saying, In your dreams, this project must belong to our president. Albert said to me, President Ryan, you have a good employee. Then he laughed loudly and walked away. Wendy chased after him for a few steps, pointed at Albert's back and shouted, Just wait and see. Then she ran back. Sister Ryan, this project must be yours. I patted Wendy's cheek and said, affectionately, Thanks for your kind words. After the bid opening, I immediately called Wendy to my office. Thanks to your kind words, I really won this project. Tell me, what reward do you want? Obviously, Wendy still didn't know the result. Hearing what I said, she visibly panicked. You won? Really? I raised my eyebrow. Don't believe it? If you don't believe what I said, someone should tell you soon. The panic on Wendy's face turned into fear. Sure enough, her cell phone rang. Glancing at the screen, she turned around and was about to go out. But she couldn't open the door no matter what. I put down my phone. It's locked. Just answer it here. Wendy looked like she was about to cry. Open the door quickly. I looked at her coldly and slowly withdrew the smile from my lips. Her cell phone was still ringing, as if urging her life. I ordered in a deep voice. Word by word. Answer it here. For Wendy answered the phone. The person on the other end of the phone said something. After she heard it, her face was so pale that even her foundation couldn't cover it. After hanging up the phone, she suddenly strode over and roared at me. Did you deliberately give me a fake bid document and the bottom price? Do you know how much you've hurt me? I slowly stood up and walked in front of Wendy. She was in tears. Why did you harm me? I didn't say a word. I raised my hand and slapped Wendy on the face. The sound was crisp and loud. Well, her face finally had a tinge of color. You're the one who hurt me. I slapped her on the face again. If you have time to shout at me, you might as well call your brother Sean and ask him to find a way to get you out of the police station. Wendy's hand loosened, and her cell phone fell to the ground. She stared blankly and asked me, "Are you going to call the police?" I was amused by her question. Such a cute little thing. I leaned forward slightly and looked at her like she was an idiot. This is a commercial crime. Of course I'm going to call the police. Wendy's legs went weak and she knelt down. Sister Ryan. No, President Ryan. You can't call the police. Please. I can't go to jail. So her bones were so weak. In my previous life, I was killed by such a person and my brother, who was a traitor. It was really unjust. Looking at Wendy's tear-streaked face, I thought of the time when I wasn't a shrew yet. But that was in my previous life. I had died once. In this life, I won't let any of those who hurt me go. So you admit it? I thought you would argue for a while longer. I smiled. It's useless to beg me. Go beg your brother Sean, and see if he has a way to save you. After my reminder, Wendy thought of Sean. She immediately stood up, raised her chin, with an expression of, I'm not afraid of you. Ryan. You won't let me go even though I begged you like this. You're such a vicious woman. The third slap landed on Wendy's face. It was heavier than the previous two. Instantly, bright red blood oozed from the corner of Wendy's mouth. Do you still want to curse? Wendy bit her lower lip and turned around to stride towards the door. I picked up my mobile phone, opened the door and let her out. More than an hour later, I was still having a meeting in the conference room. Suddenly, the door of the conference room was opened. I looked in the direction of the sound, and a tall figure came into my view. It was my brother, Sean. Vivian hurried over. President. I told them that you were in a meeting. But. Sean walked up to me. His handsome face was clouded with anger, and his tone was commanding as soon as he opened his mouth. I have something to say to Ryan. All of you get out. Everyone looked at each other, and no one moved. Sean growled in a low voice. I told you to get out. Still, no one moved. Wendy ran to Sean's side and said angrily, Didn't you hear what Brother Sean said? He told you to get out. Vivian couldn't bear it any longer. This is our president's company. We only listen to the president. Sean lost face and his expression became even more fierce. He nodded. Ryan. I originally wanted to save you some face. Now it seems that you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Don't blame me for making you lose face in front of your subordinates. I laughed. You are so noble. You'd just like to make me lose face. How do you want to do it? You. Sean was choked. His thin lips were tightly pursed into a straight line in anger. After a long while, he spoke again. I don't want to waste my breath on you. Ryan. You used 20 to give false information to Albert. And now that you have used her, you are going to call the police. Wendy is only 22 years old this year. Do you want to ruin her? Why are you so vicious? I had already given up on this brother. I just thought he was really ridiculous. He was so good at shifting the blame. Had he accompanied Tang Sang to fetch scriptures from the Western heaven? If you want me to spare her, show some attitude and sincerity. Threatening and moral blackmail are useless. Crime is crime. I have conclusive evidence on my side. It's just a matter of making a call to the police. Sean opened his mouth. Just as he showed the expression of wanting to speak, I interrupted him. Think it over. If you say one more nonsense word, I will call the police. There will be no second chance. The words on Sean's lips were on the verge of being spoken, but he swallowed them back. Wendy finally realized that the development of the matter was out of her expectation, and she started crying again. She grabbed Sean's arm and cried while begging, "Brother Sean, please help me. I can't go to jail." Sean took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and his attitude softened a great deal. He changed to a tone of sincere advice. "Ryan, Wendy is young and naive. She just wanted to buy a few bags. She was too embarrassed to ask me for money. This is understandable. Besides, you have already got the project. There is no loss. Right? Being able to get the project is my ability. Moreover, if I hadn't discovered that there was a commercial spy, the project would have fallen into someone else's hands. By then, if my company went bankrupt, would you say again that I just lost my company? And she couldn't have a criminal record, right?" These were the words he had personally said in my previous life. I will never forget them in either of my two lives. I frowned impatiently. If you want to beg someone, you should have the attitude of begging. If you still have this attitude, then there is no need to say more. Go back and hire a lawyer. Vivian stood beside me. The evidence is conclusive. We have it all on video. It's useless for you to hire any lawyer. Brother Sean. Wendy sobbed. Please help me think of a way quickly. She will really call the police. Sean stared at me fixedly. After a long time, he said coldly, "What do you want? Just say it." I clicked my tongue. "Do you want to accuse me of blackmail?" "I don't want anything but your sincerity." Glancing at Wendy beside him, I deliberately said, "Brother, we are siblings. And this matter has nothing to do with you. I advise you not to get involved. If she goes to jail, I will introduce a better one to you. Okay, wait for my news." Sean said coldly and then left, pulling Wendy with him. How could I possibly introduce a girlfriend to Sean? He and Wendy deserve each other. His fiancée in the arranged marriage is really pitiful. 6 Sure enough, Sean was sensible. He actually gave me the shares of the head office in his hands. It showed great sincerity. He placed the share transfer agreements in triplicate on my desk. I have already signed my name. As long as you sign your name, these 7% of the shares in my hand will be yours. I picked up one copy and browsed through it. No hurry. I will read it first, and then let the lawyer have a look. Sean snorted and said sarcastically, "You are quite cautious." I shrugged. One can't be too careful. In this world, I can't even trust my own brother. What can I do? Hurry up, Sean said and then left. After I finished reading the transfer agreement and let the lawyer read it again, I signed it after making sure there was no problem. Vivian walked in and asked me, "President, why is your brother so partial to Wendy?" "Obviously, you are his real sister." I sneered. How can a real sister be more important than a beloved sister? Actually, Sean used to be very nice to me until Wendy showed up. Then everything changed. She was a poor student sponsored by Sean. Gradually, they got together even though Sean knew that he had an arranged marriage partner. Wendy knew it as well, but she didn't care. In her heart, the one who is not loved is the mistress. In the evening, I returned home. Sean also came back. Even my father said, "You are something. You know to come home." Sean said faintly. I was busy with the company's affairs before, and only recently found some time. Then he asked me, how are things with the shares? My mother asked. What shares? Sean gave a cold laugh. Ask your dear daughter. She used someone to spread false information to the competitor, and then was about to send that person to prison, taking advantage of the fact that the person was an inexperienced girl. I stepped in to plead for mercy. But instead she blackmailed me and took all my shares in the head office. So that's what he was up to. I wondered why he just gave me the shares directly. By saying this in front of my parents, he naturally hoped that my parents would stop me and make me return the shares to him. TSK. He used such scheming on his own younger sister. I took out my mobile phone. I've recorded this. You know, brother. Do you think this is slander? Sean suddenly stood up and was about to snatch my phone. Delete it. Ryan, when did you become so scheming? I gave him a reassuring smile. Just kidding. I haven't had time to record yet. Then I opened my phone and showed it to him. Seeing that I really hadn't recorded, he let out a sigh of relief and sat down again. I leaned forward slightly. Brother, so you also know that what you just said was all false? It was slander? That's why you were so afraid of me recording? Sean was stunned for a moment, then suddenly slapped the table and stood up. Ryan, you're still quibbling. Enough. My father said in a deep voice. Both of you. Shut up. My mother asked me again. Ryan, what on earth is going on? I showed my parents the video of Wendy peeking at my bottom price, and her meeting with Albert, and giving him my bidding document. She was an intern introduced to me by my brother. Unexpectedly. She was a commercial spy. I wanted to call the police, but my brother wouldn't let me. In order to keep. Ryan. Sean interrupted me with a low growl. My mother coldly snapped back. Let your sister finish. It's not your turn to get excited yet. I then told the whole story. My parents understood everything and then looked at Sean. Your sister has finished. It's your turn to speak. 7. I had already presented all the evidence clearly. Even if Sean was extremely good at quibbling and turning the tables, he couldn't say anything in front of my parents. He knew very well in his heart that what he had said couldn't hold water, and he could only try to scare me. I've already given her the shares. What else is there to say? Wasn't it you who brought it up first? My father snorted coldly and picked up his chopsticks again. Sean knew very well that he couldn't take back the shares he had given me. His face darkened and he stood up and said, I'm not eating anymore. I have things to do. Stop right there. My father called to him. What's the matter with you and that Wendy? Sean, I need to remind you that you are engaged. That engagement was arranged by you. I don't want it. I already have someone I like. Sean said coldly and strode away. My father shook his head disappointed. Lie. How did he become like this? My mother comforted him. Don't be angry. Ryan winning the project is a good thing and worth celebrating. Hearing this, my father's face finally looked better, and he asked me with a smile what reward I wanted. I was just about to speak when my mother interrupted me. You still want a reward? You now have an additional 7% of the shares, and are a major shareholder. She smiled and picked up a piece of beef for me and continued. But our Ryan is really capable. These 7% of the shares are what you deserve. I will inform the shareholders. My father also said approvingly. This is my daughter. If you were like your brother, I think our family company would go bankrupt sooner or later. In my previous life, my own company did go bankrupt. It was all because I still cared about the family bond with my brother. Not this time. I finally understand what my parents said now when operating in the business world. One cannot be too sentimental. My parents are very satisfied with my performance this time. Whether it was my successfully winning a big project or getting 7% of the shares from Sean. It seems that Sean is out of the game now. But I can't let my guard down either. Since I want to defeat him completely, I can't give him the slightest chance to catch his breath. I completely deleted those videos about Wendy in front of Sean. Don't worry. There are no backups. So don't be so suspicious. Sean looked at me coldly. His eyes didn't seem to be looking at his own younger sister at all, but at a mortal enemy. If you dare to play any more tricks on me, I will never let you go. He left after issuing this threat. Vivian came to call me for a meeting. About the project. The meeting lasted more than 2 hours. It was already noon. Vivian asked me, "President, you said you had something to do at noon and were going out to eat." I've informed the driver. He is waiting outside. I nodded, went out and got into the car, and came to an elegantly decorated restaurant. At 12:10, a fairy sat down in front of me on time. She is said to be a fairy because she is really good-looking, the type that seems otherworldly. Of course, her good looks are the least remarkable of her virtues. Sean is indeed very handsome, but he is still not good enough for her. This is Stella, Sean's fiancée through an arranged marriage. The very Stella of, I see the Green Mountains as so charming. And I suppose the Green Mountains see me as Stella. Even her name is so fairy-like. Did you ask me to come here just to admire me adoringly? As soon as the fairy-like girl sitting opposite spoke, in contrast to her cold and aloof temperament, her voice was soft and gentle, but not at all greasy. All in all, she is perfect in every way. Sean is just not worthy of her. I cleared my throat slightly and sat up straight. No. I'm here to talk business with you. Then I handed over the menu. Let's order first. Stella took the menu and ordered a few dishes. After the waiter left, she spoke again. To be honest with you, I don't like your brother. I've been trying to persuade my family to cancel the engagement between him and me. So I won't cooperate with anyone from the Ryan family. I couldn't help but curl my lips. Then you should cooperate with me all the more. Stella's gaze subtly swept across my face. Just say it directly. I can help you cancel the engagement with Sean. I took out my phone and sent her a few photos. After looking at them, Stella chuckled. Just a few photos. Even if he is cheating, my family won't easily agree to me canceling the engagement. What they care about is only profit. What if the matter gets out of hand? I asked. The photos I sent her were of Sean and Wendy being intimate. Stella looked at me inquisitively. If the matter gets out of hand, the Ryan family will also lose face. Won't they? I raised my eyebrows. Maybe by that time Sean will have no relation to the Ryan family anymore. Stella looked at me silently for a while, and then chuckled again. The radiance of that smile was like a quang flower blooming in an instant. Enough to make one's heart flutter. I had seen her many times before, but every time I couldn't help but look at her a few more times. How can there be such a beautiful person in this world? Have you seen enough? Stella asked with a smile. She nodded. I'll cooperate with you. I was a little flattered. Really? She nodded again. After the meal, the two of us walked out together. I asked the question that had been on my mind. Why did you suddenly decide to cooperate with me? Our cars were already parked at the entrance. Walking to the door of her car, Stella leaned close to my ear and said softly, I know that you don't like your brother. Then she gave me a smile and got into the car. I don't know how much time had passed before I heard the driver calling me, President. Get in the car. I came to my senses. Oh. Okay. 9 the day after reaching an agreement with Stella, I went to see Albert again. He was still brooding over not getting that project. As soon as he saw me, he sneered, I haven't had time to congratulate you yet. President Ryan is really extremely clever. Even I was outwitted by President Ryan. Did President Ryan ask me out just to show off? I stood up and poured a glass of wine for Albert myself. I'm here to apologize to President Albert. Albert snorted with laughter. I really can't tell. At such a young age, President Ryan already knows the principle of being flexible. One doesn't hit a smiling face. I'll drink this glass of wine. He picked up the full glass I had just poured and drank it all in one gulp. Putting down the glass, he asked coldly, Tell me, what on earth do you want? I increasingly felt that I had died an aggrieved death in my previous life. Sean and Wendy are clearly two idiots. And this Albert doesn't have much vision either. But I was outwitted by him. Forget it. I'm not in a position to say such things now. Let's just see how things go in this life. I filled his glass again and sat down. President Albert. I must explain to you that it wasn't me who outwitted you. Both of us were tricked by Wendy. These words seemed to strike a chord with Albert. It's also my fault. I didn't investigate clearly in advance what kind of person she was. But then again, President Albert, you really took an unfair loss this time. I feel sorry for you. I said sincerely. He gave Wendy so much money. But he got nothing in return. And was even warned by Sean not to retaliate against Wendy. How could he not feel aggrieved? Albert. He pursed his lips and glared at me. What on earth are you trying to say? Nothing. I shrugged. I just think that it was right for you to hire Wendy as a commercial spy. You just didn't expect that I would be on guard against her. After all, I'm not my brother. How could I trust her unconditionally? Albert carefully thought over what I had just said and suddenly laughed. Ryan, do you think I'm a fool? You and your brother are fighting each other. And you want to drag me into it? At such a young age. You calculate against me. Who gave you the guts? This Albert is naturally not a fool either. He knew that I had just reminded him that he should use Wendy to reap benefits from Sean's company. I did indeed want to reap the benefits without doing much. But if he didn't take the bait, then so be it. At present, I just want to do well with the projects in hand. I don't care about anything else. I came to see you today just to make things clear. I just turned the tables on you to get the project. I'm not in the wrong. Now that we've talked it out, we can still be friends in the future. Maybe there will be opportunities to cooperate in the future. Right. President Albert? Albert nodded. That's true. Then he clinked glasses with me. I gave him a sidelong glance while drinking. So what if he could see that I wanted to use him against Sean? Wouldn't he be tempted? There is no risk-free business. The greater the storm, the more expensive the fish. That very night, I received a call from Stella. How did your talk with President Albert go? I was lying on the bed. It ended a long time ago. Why are you calling me so late? Stella chuckled. Then why didn't you call me? I turned over. It's always me who contacts you first. Stella, how did the talk really go? I let out a sigh. It didn't work out. This guy is also very shrewd. He saw through my intention to use him to trip up Sean at a glance. Stella was silent for a while and then asked, should our plan continue? Of course it should continue. Just wait for a while. If you start the tender now, Albert will be suspicious. Stella didn't think so. We met privately both times. Albert doesn't know. He suspects you. Not me. It was indeed very reasonable. But it was best to be foolproof. Wait a little longer. This wait lasted half a year. During these 6 months, I collected a lot of intimate photos and videos of Sean and Wendy. With Sean and Stella's engagement not yet broken, these photos would be enough to cause a great stir on the internet. This is cheating. During these 6 months, apart from preparing for her upcoming projects, Stella was cultivating feelings with Sean. Of course. In fact, it was just to meet Wendy. Wendy is now Sean's assistant, having changed from an intern to a full-time employee. Every time Stella went to Sean's company to find him, she would deliberately wear some luxury items with very conspicuous logos. When Wendy saw them, she would ask Sean for them, and Sean was generous. In the past 6 months, he had spent nearly $100 million on Wendy. Stella often sighed to me, your brother really loves Miss Wendy. Is spending some money true love? I'm also generous to my dog when I keep a dog. I said sarcastically. During these 6 months, Stella and I had apparently become good girlfriends. But we still could only meet secretly. We bought a house on the east side of the city. Sometimes the two of us would spend the night here, and it was more convenient to discuss our plan. At this moment, Stella was lying beside me. Then let's test it. It has been half a year already. I really want to break off my engagement with Sean quickly. I nodded. Then let's act. Yeah. Stella closed her eyes. Go to sleep. Stella's tender was released the next morning. If she could win this project, it would also be a test for her by the family. The reasons why she agreed to marry Sean were: first, that it was decided by the elders in the family, and she couldn't refuse. Second, in fact, she also needed the power of the Ryan family to help her gain a firm foothold in the Ying family. But it was different now. She didn't need Sean anymore because she had my support. During these 6 months, my parents had become more and more disappointed in Sean. For Wendy, he had almost reached the point of being able to give up everything. My parents had privately decided to let me manage the head office. They were just waiting for me to finish the project in my hands. Of course, they didn't tell me directly, but just gave me a little hint. So during these 6 months, I had also made quite a few under-the-table moves. This project of Stella was exactly to the taste of Sean and Albert. That was the result of my investigation. In my previous life, it was Albert and I who were competing. In this life, I also wanted Sean to have a taste of this. The day after the tender statement was released, I received a call from Albert, asking me if I was interested in cooperating with him. I feigned ignorance. Cooperate in what? Albert sneered. President Ryan is really good at playing dumb. Didn't you see the tender of Stella's family group? Stella has an engagement with your brother. I said inferently. You also said it was an engagement with my brother. Not with me. Albert, that's why I'm looking for you to cooperate. You know, with someone in the court. Your brother can get things done easily. If Stella's family group gives him a backdoor, I will never be able to win this project no matter what. I'm not interested in this project, so I won't get involved. President Albert, let's cooperate next time when there is an opportunity. After that, I hung up the phone. I don't know how angry Albert was on the other side. He mustn't be so angry as to be killed. These days, Stella went to Sean's company every day. As soon as Wendy saw her, her thoughts of female rivalry reached their peak. But Stella's things were getting more and more expensive. Sean had now invested all his money in Stella's family group project, and had no spare money at all. Wendy had a quarrel with him, but Sean just couldn't get any money out. And Wendy had no choice but to watch Stella dress luxuriously every day. Full of envy, jealousy and hatred. And when Albert got the news that Stella went to Sean's company every day, he was afraid that Stella would really give Sean a backdoor. At this time, he thought of what I had said. So, Albert contacted Wendy again. These two people, one with internal information of Sean's company, the other in need of money, hit it off immediately. Stella and I saw all of this. She proposed to me. Do you think your brother will be angry when he knows that Wendy has betrayed him? Let's make a bet. I thought for a while. According to Sean's love-stricken mind, probably not. Stella nodded. I don't think so either. She nudged me with her shoulder. Actually, if your brother really loves Wendy that much, I quite admire him. Nowadays, not many people are willing to give everything for love. And not many people will be sincere to one person either. I always feel that true love in this era has completely disappeared. I looked at her silently for a while and asked in confusion, if it has disappeared, then so be it. What do we need true love for? Stella was amused by my words, but she also agreed. Indeed. 12 Everything seemed to be developing according to the trajectory of the previous life. Only this time, it was Sean who was betrayed by Wendy, for the project bidding of Stella's family group. In the end, only Sean and Albert were left. Finally, Albert won the bidding this time with a price 1 yuan higher than Sean's bidding base price. Sean got the news. He was furious and was certain that there must be a spy in the company. He ordered that this spy must be found out. The one found out was naturally Wendy. She was really a dumb beauty, and not just creating a persona. relying on Sean's love for her. She blatantly stole the internal information and was recorded throughout by the surveillance. Sean was extremely angry and slapped Wendy hard in front of everyone. Bitch. Wendy was slapped to the ground and looked at Sean with grievance and incredulity. You hit me? Just for a project. You hit me? Sean was trembling with anger. He went up and grabbed Wendy's collar and dragged her up. Do you know how much effort I have put into this project? Because of you. Everything is ruined. But Wendy, as if she hadn't understood, was still repeating that sentence. You hit me. Sean. You actually hit me. She pushed Sean away, took a few steps back, and looked at Sean heartbroken. I won't forgive you. Sean. Let's break up. This was the scene Stella saw when she went to explain to Sean on the pretext. She recorded it and sent it to me. There was also a following sentence. It's my first time to take a surreptitious photo. I'm so nervous. Ying ying ying. How cute she was. Then I asked Vivian to release all the photos and videos of Sean and Wendy at once and also hired trolls to boost the popularity. Soon, the hashtag Sean is a scum and Wendy is a mistress were on the hot search. Stella got the sympathy of a large number of passers-by. And even the stock price of Stella's family grew pros. Our family's company was miserable. It was all dragged down by that scoundrel Sean. I quickly stood up and issued a statement that the She Group had no relation with Sean anymore and would be fully taken over by me. This was of course with the indication of my parents. After all, we still had to think about the company. There were so many employees and shareholders. And we had to give them an explanation. Moreover, I also took the opportunity to release the private deal between Albert and Wendy. It could be regarded as completely muddling the waters. Wendy was under the greatest pressure. She stood out, crying, and said that Sean had domestic violence against her. Netizens scolded her for being a mistress. And she said a very classic line. The one not loved is the mistress. At this time, Stella's family group issued a statement to dissolve Stella's engagement with Sean. Because Albert was not clean-eathered, Stella's family group also withdrew the cooperation with Albert. And the partner naturally chose me. So the final winners were Stella and me. When Wendy stood out to explain, she accidentally blurted out the matter that she had previously stolen my company's internal information together with Albert. This time it was Sean's company again. She realized she had said something wrong too late and then went offline and disappeared. 13 in the end. Sean didn't sue Wendy. It was not because he was unswervingly in love with Wendy, but because so many things emerged all at once like bamboo shoots after a spring rain. And the beneficiary was me. Sean was not completely stupid. How could he not guess that I was the one behind all this? So he and Wendy studied for a few days and decided to kill me. Just like in the previous life, Sean locked me up and cut off my water and food supply. But this time I was well prepared. After Sean locked me up and left, Stella came. She let me out and examined me carefully from head to toe. Are you hurt? I shook my head. Stella looked at me with pity. I really didn't expect that your brother would be so ruthless. The searing pain of being burned to death by the big fire in the previous life once again tightly surrounded me. I hugged myself and forcibly suppressed the hatred in my heart and murmured, he is not my brother. I have no brother long ago. Stella hugged me and gently patted my back, silently comforting me. I felt much better and left her embrace. You should go quickly. Don't be discovered. She gave me a final look. Although she was worried, she still left. I knew that she was outside and would not leave completely. I hid the food and water she brought me well and sat down again, just waiting for Sean and Wendy to set the fire. And they really didn't let me down. At the moment when Wendy set the house on fire, I suddenly rushed out of the room, ran straight to the door, then locked the door from the outside, propped it with something, and ran away. That night, I was taken to the police station. I was locked up by my brother. Later, I managed to escape with great difficulty. I was afraid that they would catch up with me, so I locked the door to keep them inside. I didn't start the fire. The police also found a lighter under the fragments of a vase in the fire scene. After testing, Wendy's fingerprints were on it. And this lighter was the tool that caused the fire. Because there was only one lighter at the scene, which belonged to Sean and was heat resistant. After I finished giving my statement, I left the police station. Stella came to pick me up. Were you frightened? I was just telling the truth. It was they who wanted to burn me to death. I was afraid that they would catch up with me. No, I wasn't. Sean and Wendy deserved to die. 14. A few days later, Albert was also taken away by the court. Since I was reborn, I have collected a lot of his dirty secrets. Although my real enemies were Sean and Wendy, I wouldn't let Albert off either. It was an easy thing to take revenge on him. Half a year later, the result of Albert's case came out. For multiple crimes, he was sentenced to 4 years and 7 months in prison. I'm very satisfied with this result. After all, Albert didn't deserve death. On the day he was escorted to prison, it was the day when I officially took over the She's group. At the evening banquet, Stella walked up to me in a light purple dress, holding a glass of champagne. Congratulations, President She. I raised my glass and clinked it with hers. Congratulations to you too, President Stella. We both looked at each other and smiled. In the future, the two of us will go further and further hand in hand.